Welcome back, everyone, to another Deep Dives. Today we'll be looking into happiness and asking ourselves if maybe we're all chasing it the wrong way.
Yeah, that's a great question.
We're going to be looking at some excerpts from Krishnamurti's book, Reflections on the Self-Guru. And let me tell you,
Oh, yeah, his great.
this guy was not your typical self-help guru.
No, not at all.
Really shook things up.
Yeah, he definitely challenged the way people typically think about these things. And I think one of the most powerful things he does right off the bat is he asks this question, like, what if happiness isn't actually something you, like, aim for directly?
Yeah.
Like, what if it's more of a side effect?
A side effect.
Yeah.
So you're saying, like, instead of chasing happiness, we should be focusing on something else, something even more.
Fundamental. Yeah, fundamental.
Like he's really pointing to the root of our suffering. Like, think of it this way. Imagine you have a leaky faucet,
Okay.
constantly dripping.
Yep.
Now you could spend all your time and energy just frantically mopping up the water.
Yeah. Chasing pleasure. But wouldn't it be much more effective to actually fix the leak itself?
Address the root of the problem.
Exactly.
Right.
That's where Krishnamurti's approach takes us. He's like, hey, you're focused on the symptoms, but what's causing the discomfort in the first place?
It's like he's saying you keep putting a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah, exactly.
When you really need to.
You need to fix the source of the problem.
Take a look at the source.
Yeah, and he doesn't shy away from that. He digs deep. He uses this powerful analogy in the text.
Okay.
He compares our pursuit of pleasure to an addict chasing a high.
Oh.
You know, always needing more, never truly satisfied.
Whoa.
Yeah, and he actually says, the sensation of pleasure is sought after more and more in wider and wider circles until it encompasses everything.
That's powerful. Like
Yeah.
and so true. When you think about it, are we not constantly chasing that next, like on social media, that next shopping spree or that next exciting vacation?
Yeah, it's like we're on this treadmill of instant gratification.
Yeah.
You know, constantly bombarded with stimuli, always craving more. But the real question is, does this constant chase for fleeting pleasure actually prevent us from experiencing true lasting happiness?
Right. We're so focused on these quick hits of dopamine that maybe we're missing out on something much deeper.
Yeah, for sure. And there's another layer to this too, the role of memory.
Okay.
Krishnamurti highlights how clinging to those past pleasures can actually block us from experiencing joy in the present moment.
Interesting. So like, how does that work?
He gives this great example of watching a sunset.
Okay.
You know, the first time you see it, you're completely mesmerized by the beauty.
Yeah.
But if you're constantly comparing every sunset after that to that initial memory, aren't you actually robbing yourself of the unique beauty of this present moment?
That's such a good point. Like we're always chasing that ghost of experiences past
Yeah.
instead of being open to what's right in front of us.
Think about it. How many times have you compared a new restaurant to your favorite one? Or a new song to your all-time favorite? We're constantly measuring present experiences against those memories, and that comparison creates this barrier to truly appreciating what is.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
And it's not just memories. Krishnamurti even says that we can't like invite happiness.
Oh, really?
He argues that it's a state of being, not something you can force or cultivate.
That's interesting. So it's about quieting the mind's constant chatter, all those desires and anxieties.
Yeah.
He suggests that true happiness emerges when we create space for stillness and let go of the constant striving.
Almost like the more we chase happiness, the more it eludes us.
Yeah.
But when we let go of that desperate pursuit, maybe we open ourselves up to actually experiencing it.
It's like a paradox.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, so we just finished talking about how chasing happiness might actually backfire and be counterproductive. But that kind of begs the question. Like, if we're not supposed to chase it, how in the world are we supposed to experience it?
Well, Krishnamurti really dives into this, and he suggests that a lot of it has to do with quieting that inner storm of thoughts and desires.
Oh, okay. You know, it's, he refers to this as choiceless awareness.
Choiceless awareness.
Yeah, it's this way of observing our inner world without getting like all caught up in the drama.
Okay.
So imagine your thoughts are like cars speeding down a highway.
Oh, right.
And you're standing on the side just watching them pass by
Okay.
without judgment, without trying to like stop them or hop into one.
Okay, so it's not about suppressing them or
Right.
controlling your thoughts.
It's about acknowledging them,
Yeah.
but not letting them drag you along.
Gotcha. So you're not getting swept away in the current of I'm so stressed or I'm such a failure.
Exactly.
You're just noticing that, oh, there's a thought about stress.
Right, or there's a feeling of inadequacy.
Yeah.
And that little shift in perspective can be incredibly powerful.
It's almost like you're taking a step back from it all,
Yeah,
and you become like an observer of your own mind,
exactly.
rather than being completely consumed by it. And that reminds me of something else that Krishnamurti talks about, our constant need for security. Oh yeah, how does that play into this whole happiness equation?
Well, Krishnamurti believed that our pursuit of security, like both physical and emotional, can often actually backfire.
Okay.
You know, we cling to these beliefs and relationships, possessions, thinking they'll give us lasting happiness.
Right.
But that clinging actually creates a lot of fear and anxiety.
We build these walls around ourselves, trying to protect ourselves from all the uncertainties of life.
Yeah, and those walls can end up becoming like prisons.
Right.
Preventing us from truly experiencing the fullness of life.
That's such a good point.
He uses this great visual.
Okay.
Imagine a bird building a nest.
Okay.
The nest provides safety and comfort, right?
Yeah.
But if that bird never leaves the nest, it'll never truly experience the freedom of flight.
So how do we loosen the grip of that need for security?
Well, it starts with understanding.
Okay.
You know, Krishnamurti believed that when we truly understand something, when we see it clearly for what it is, it naturally loses its power over us. So the first step is becoming aware of how this clinging to security is showing up in our lives.
Exactly.
Is it fear of losing our job, the anxiety of being alone, the need to control everything?
And once we've identified those patterns,
Yeah.
then we can start to work on breaking free from them.
So how do we do that?
Well, Krishnamurti emphasized the importance of questioning our assumptions.
Okay.
We often hold on to these beliefs and ideas without ever really examining them.
Yeah, we just kind of take them for granted.
Exactly. So he encourages us to ask, why do I believe this? Is it really true? Is this belief serving me, or is it holding me back?
So it's about challenging those stories we tell ourselves and being open to new perspectives, which can be a little scary.
It can be, but it's also incredibly liberating.
Yeah.
When we start to question our assumptions, we open ourselves up to new possibilities,
Right.
new ways of seeing the world and ourselves.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all connects. We're talking about a real fundamental shift in perspective, a way of being more present, more aware, and less attached to our own fixed ideas.
Exactly.
But how do we actually put this into practice? Like, how do we cultivate this choiceless awareness
Right.
and live more fully in the present moment?
Well, it's not about finding the perfect formula or following some strict set of rules.
Okay.
Krishnamurti believed that true understanding comes from direct experience, from paying attention to our own lives, our own patterns, our own reactions.
Okay.
He uses this analogy of a scientist observing an experiment.
All right.
You know, the scientist doesn't try to control the outcome.
Right.
They simply observe what happens with curiosity and an open mind.
So it's about becoming the scientist of our own lives, paying attention to our thoughts and feelings and behaviors without judging them.
Yeah.
Almost like treating ourselves as an intriguing experiment.
That's a great way to put it. It's about approaching our inner world with a sense of curiosity and openness rather than resistance and judgment. And remember, it's a lifelong process.
Yeah.
You know, it's a journey of self-discovery.
This reminds me of something else. Krishnamurti emphasized the interconnectedness of our inner and outer worlds.
Oh, yeah.
He famously said, "You are the world and the world is you."
He believed that our inner state is reflected in the world around us.
Right.
You know, if we're full of anger, fear, or insecurity, we're likely to project those feelings onto others and create conflict.
Yeah.
But if we cultivate peace and understanding within ourselves, then we contribute to a more harmonious world.
So it's like a ripple effect. If we want to change the world, we need to start by changing ourselves.
Exactly. And it's not about becoming perfect or achieving some state of enlightenment.
Right.
It's about being present, being aware, and being kind to ourselves and others, even when we mess up.
That's a good point.
You okay?
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Choiceless awareness, questioning our assumptions, understanding how our inner world shapes our outer world. But how does this all tie back to happiness? We still haven't quite cracked that code, have we?
Well, Krishnamurti believed that true happiness isn't something we pursue, but rather something that arises naturally when we let go of the things that prevent us from experiencing it.
Okay.
And one of those things is our attachment to a fixed sense of self.
Okay, that's perfect. That leads right into the final part of our deep dive. So we've been exploring some of J. Krishnamurti's ideas about happiness and how it's not something you chase, but rather a byproduct of something deeper. And in these excerpts, he ties all this to some really fascinating concepts like beauty and passion, and the nature of the self.
Yeah, he suggests that, true happiness is really like deeply connected to all three of those elements.
So when you say beauty, is he talking about like appreciating a stunning sunset or like a masterpiece painting?
Yeah.
Or is it something more?
Well, he includes all of that, of course. But he's pointing to something much deeper, like a quality of perception that goes way beyond just surface appearances,
Oh.
It's about seeing with your whole being, not just your eyes.
He uses that example, right?
Yeah.
Like looking at a cloud or a tree.
Exactly.
Wow.
And he talks about how to really experience true beauty requires this kind of passion and intensity that goes beyond just liking or disliking something.
Yeah, he says it has to transcend that.
Right. It's about experiencing the world with this sense of awe and wonder. Like you're seeing it for the very first time,
Right.
Okay, so it's less about the object itself and more about how we perceive it, how deeply we engage with it.
Exactly. And that's where the passion comes in. Because for Krishnamurti, true passion isn't about, fleeting desires or attachments.
Hold on.
It's about this deep engagement with life, like this burning curiosity to really understand the nature of reality.
So not just getting excited about the latest gadget or trend.
No, it's something much deeper, much more enduring.
So it's about being fully present, fully alive in each moment.
Huh.
Approaching life with this sense of openness and wonder, like you're a kid again, discovering the world for the first time. Okay, I think I'm starting to see the connection here. But how does all of this tie back to happiness? What's that missing link?
Well, Krishnamurti believed that when we experience beauty and passion in this really profound way, we actually tap into something that transcends our limited sense of self. And that's where the real shift happens.
Hold on, what do you mean by self? Like, isn't that just who we are?
Well, he saw the self as more of a construct, like a collection of memories and beliefs and experiences that we can identify with.
Okay.
But he argued that this sense of self, this whole idea of like me versus the world, is actually a huge source of suffering because it creates this separation.
So we're actually getting in our own way when we're so wrapped up in our own little world.
In a sense, yes.
Yep.
When we're constantly focused on our own, desires, fears, and self-image, it limits our capacity to really experience the fullness of life, the interconnectedness of everything.
So how do we break free from this limited sense of self? How do we step outside of our own heads?
It goes back to what we were discussing before, cultivating that choiceless awareness by simply observing our thoughts and feelings and sensations without judgment. We begin to see that the self isn't this solid, unchanging entity.
Okay.
It's more like a fluid process, a constantly changing flow of experience.
So it's less like a fixed identity and more like a river constantly moving and changing.
Exactly. And when we start to see that, we create space for something new to emerge. This sense of connection, of wholeness, of being a part of something much larger than ourselves.
And that's where happiness comes in?
Well, it's not so much that it comes in, but rather that it arises naturally when we let go of that rigid attachment to the self.
Okay.
When we stop clinging to that limited sense of who we are, we open ourselves up to this boundless experience of joy and peace and love.
So it's like we're removing the obstacles that prevent us from experiencing true happiness, which, as Krishnamurti suggests, is our natural state.
Exactly. He believed that happiness isn't something that we need to acquire or achieve. It's already present within us, just waiting to be uncovered.
So it's not about adding something, it's about letting go.
Yeah.
Letting go of the need to control the fear of the unknown, the
Yeah.
attachment to a limited self.
Exactly. And the more we let go, the more we experience that boundless joy and peace that he talks about.
Man, this is a lot to take in, but it's really inspiring. It feels like a whole new way of looking at happiness, one that's less about our external circumstances and more about inner transformation.
It is a radical shift in perspective, and, it's not always easy.
Right.
It takes a lot of courage to question our beliefs and to let go of our attachments and to really embrace the unknown. But Krishnamurti believed that this was the only path to true and lasting happiness.
So where do we go from here? How do we take these profound insights and actually integrate them into our daily lives?
Well, he always emphasized that, true understanding comes from direct experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough to just read about these ideas or talk about them. We have to actually put them into practice.
So what's one tangible thing that our listeners could do today to start exploring these ideas for themselves?
I would suggest starting with observation. Take a few minutes each day to just sit and observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment. Notice how your mind creates stories and how it clings to certain beliefs or ideas.
And maybe even try to see the world with that sense of beauty and passion we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. Look for those moments of awe and wonder, those little glimpses of something that transcends the ordinary. It could be as simple as appreciating the intricate patterns on a leaf or the way the sunlight dances on the water.
This has been such an illuminating deep dive into J. Krishnamurti's perspective on happiness.
Huh.
It's definitely given us a lot to think about and, more importantly, to put into practice.
Absolutely. It's been a fascinating exploration. And remember, the journey itself is where the beauty truly lies.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring.